Welcome back to the Money Script Podcast. It's your host, Yohance Harrison. So happy to be with each and every one of you today. I want to give a special shout out to all of our listeners or viewers, that are joining us on YouTube. Because we're live now. And for those that are paying attention, yes, I am dressed the exact same as I was for last week's episode. That is because it is still today for me. I was back to back, and I'm here today with one of my good friends. We go back 15 years or something like that. Amber Romo, thank you for joining me today. We'll get to her in just a minute. For those of you that are on YouTube, you see she's there already, and her name's at the bottom of the screen. So I had to at least tell you she's there. But for listeners, you can't see her, but she's here. She's waving to you right now. So I wanted to continue here on the Money Script Podcast because we're here to talk about money. I'm a financial advisor. I've been a financial advisor for over 2 decades, and my role is to help people make better decisions with their money. And so we started a conversation last week about the changes in the student loans, and the clock is ticking, everyone. You're now probably, let's see, by the time you hear this, you're probably 30 days out from the interest to start accumulating on your student loans again. Yes, that happens on September 1st of 2023. If you have federal student loans that were in forbearance, basically, or COVID forbearance for during the last 3 years, starting on September 1, the interest will start accumulating again. In last week's episode, we talked about some special programs that the government is putting into place for all of the folks with public and federal student loans. One that we spoke of specifically was the SAVE program. And I was doing some more research on the SAVE program, and it turns out there's 2 different parts of the SAVE program. Some of the benefits will be available as early as September 1st that you can start applying for right now. And if you are listening to this right now or watching this right now, after you hear what I say, it's okay to pause. We'll still be here. You just come back and unpause. It's okay to pause and go to the federal student aid, studentaid.gov, and see what programs you qualify for, or set a reminder for yourself to hop on the phone or hop online to see what you qualify for. So there's some benefits that they're working on that aren't available yet, that won't be around until 2024. And again, I want to give a big shout out to NerdWallet. They put some very comprehensive language together for us of these different benefits. So I do want to take just a quick moment and give you a highlight. Number one, starting next year with the SAVE program, the payments on undergraduate loans will be cut in half, from 10% of your income down to 5% of your income, and it will be based on 225% of the poverty line. I'm not going to get into all the details of what that means. I'll just say your monthly bill can be cut in half if you're in one of the government repayment programs. The other thing that's coming next year is there will be loan forgiveness applied for smaller balances. So what they were what's known as a smaller balance are for borrowers that took out less than $12,000 and have made payments for the last 10 years, including COVID, because payment just means you're qualified to make a payment. If your payment was zero because you didn't have income, et cetera. Again, studentaid.gov, figure out what you qualify for. The consolidation penalty will be lifted. So those who consolidated federal loans will no longer lose progress towards their IDR loan forgiveness. This is big, you guys. This is something that, again, you want to go back and look at what you have in your federal loans and see what programs you qualify for. There's also automatic credit towards IDR forgiveness. So that's for certain periods of deferment and forbearance. And this is something we talked about a lot in the last episode and previous episodes when they had that window where they said, hey, everyone reapply. I hope you did it. You can make up for missed payments starting next year, and there will be automatic enrollment for borrowers that have default risk. So if you're 75 days late on repayment plans, you'll automatically be enrolled in an IDR if you previously agreed to give the education department access to your tax information. It is okay. Look, guys, if you carry around a cell phone, the government can find you if they want to. So don't think, oh, I don't want to give them my taxes and access this. Look, they know who you are. Okay. They ain't paying attention to you like that. It's okay to share your tax information with the student loan department. It's only there to help you. So with that, I encourage everyone, if you have federal loans today, maybe tomorrow, but today, go look and see what you qualify for. today, if you have a significant other, multiple income household, have a sit down, have a money date. We've talked about these before. Have a money date and talk to your significant other about the changes that are coming to the federal student loan payment program. Do not wait until October 1st. Okay? Don't. Matter of fact, there's no reason to wait till October. Interest starts accumulating in September. If I were you, I'd be prepared to make a payment in September. I'm going to be prepared to make a payment in September. Yes, I still have student loans. We talked about that before. We won't go into it anymore. My son has student loans. He has a little bit more time, though. Let me see. He graduated in May. So June, July, August, September. Nope. Guess what? He's October too. Damn it. Alicia, we got to talk about Seth's student loans. She's going to say, ain't nothing to talk about. You borrowed that money. Pay it. Here we go. So yes, I am human too. I didn't save enough for my son's private school, so he had to get some loans. By he, I mean me. By me, I mean we. It's a Parent Plus loan, but he was like, well, Dad, you signed for that one. I signed for this one. It's evil. These children are evil. I love you, son. Congratulations on graduating from college. So with that, speaking of college, Amber, don't you
Hi.
have a daughter that's graduating soon?
We've got 2 years to go. So yeah,
2
she's
years.
going to her junior year. Yep.
Going to her junior. And does she know where she wants to go to college yet?
She has some ideas of where she wants to go. We might not be in line due to the costs, but yeah, she has some ideas of where she wants to go. So, but she wants to
Okay.
stay in California. So she wants to stay out here.
Okay, Amber, I'm going to share with you, just like I share with all of my other clients. Your daughter will probably want to have money for some reason, whether it's to go out to eat with her friends or buy some new clothes or whatever it is. I encourage you. Yes, having a job is cool, but a great way to help your daughter prepare for college, if you have to. Some parents, you don't have to use money as a carrot with this, but pay her to apply for scholarships. Set up an incentive. Say, hey, I'll give you $50 for every scholarship you apply for. Or, $15 an hour to sit here and just apply for
Yeah.
scholarships.
And
Make
she's
they
she's
need
pretty motivated. So
okay.
yeah,
So if
she
you don't have
even,
to
she even
give her
has
the
a job.
carrot,
So
okay, well
she'll
then
take
don't
her.
give her the carrot, but just
Yeah.
make sure she
I'll keep
understands
my
that
money.
yeah, the school that she well, that's the whole deal. That's the whole
Yeah.
deal here is for you to
Yeah.
keep your money.
Yeah.
Because if she's trying to go to any of those schools in Southern California, whew, girl,
Yeah.
we gonna pray.
Yeah, but we're trying to
Um,
we're trying to encourage her to do the community college the first 2 years to save some money. So we'll see how
I
that
would
goes.
also I would
Yeah,
also see if her high school qualifies for the dual immersion, where she can start taking community college classes because
yeah,
you can usually do that as
she can.
early as
Yeah,
your junior
they
year.
can. There's a lot of classes that
Oh,
will cover both.
yeah, do that. Do that. Knock that stuff out. So, back to my formal introduction.
Okay,
This is my good friend, Amber Romo. She is a realtor in Southern California. We met, like I said, a decade and a half ago
that's
in
right.
her former
17
life.
years ago. Yeah, when Danica was a
17. She
baby.
did the
Yeah,
math. You're telling our
yeah,
age.
yep.
Um, we worked together as financial advisors. I guess I was one of her bosses. I don't know.
Correct.
What was,
Yeah, you were
yeah,
my boss when I started.
I was your boss.
You were.
Oh man, how times have changed.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we met back as financial advisors working in Southern California, and we kept our relationship going. She's now a realtor. She's actually helped some of my clients. She's helped me. I'm helping some of her clients. So we've been keeping the relationship going and helping our clients just make better decisions. And one of the things that she focuses on, that's also a focus of ours here at the Money Script, is working with clients that are going through the probate and estate planning process. So we're going to talk a lot about death today.
Yeah.
Okay. We are, and we're going to make it a pleasant topic to discuss because, as my mother always said to me, and we're not going to bleep this out, I'm going to use the words, the 6 P's. Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. I think that might be 7 P's, but
Yeah.
yes, prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. How many P's is that? Y'all can count them later. We want to talk about how you can be more prepared so that you're not in a situation where you're forced to do things that you don't want to have to do. You're forced to spend money that you don't want to have to spend. And what we are talking about is estate planning. So I'm going to pause for a minute. We're going to be going in and out of this conversation as we talk about some examples and some clients and situations that we've had. But ultimately, we want all of you to be able to come out of our podcast today just knowing some of the questions that you may need to ask yourself, questions you may need to ask your mother, grandmother, grandfather, or father, parents, aunts, uncles, just to help you protect more of the one of what tends to be the largest asset that some Americans have, and that is their real estate portfolio. So with that, Amber, I'm gonna turn it over to you for a bit.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
tell
Thank you. I'm
us.
glad to be here. Appreciate the opportunity. And I'll also be throwing some questions back at you because I want to share this with my clients and our network as well. But part of what prompted this is my business partner and I work with a lot of clients either doing the, selling their family home that was in a trust or through a probate, and just seeing over the years the difference of what the experience is like for our clients that their families put the properties properly in a trust versus those that were not, especially here in California with the value of a home. A small home, is, $500,000 plus $1 million. So it's really important that people have prepared themselves so that they're not going through what we see a lot of our clients going through, the time, the money, and just when you're grieving a loved one, the last thing you want to do is stressing out about money, going to court dates, dealing with attorneys. So that was a big part of why we wanted to have this conversation, is how can we encourage all the listeners and our clients to set things up properly and to use their resources, maybe their financial advisor, estate planners, all of those things, so that they are prepared when the time comes, and not avoid the topic of when someone passes away, what's going to happen.
Indeed. So let's just start with some of the basics here so all of our listeners and viewers can understand. So let's start with, what is probate?
Okay. So probate is when someone passes away and they don't have a trust set up. So there's no, and I'll share some stories that'll kind of help point this out, the difference between the two, being prepared and not prepared. So we recently had a client who the mother passed away, and there's two siblings. So they knew who the property was going to, but she didn't have anything set up. So the sisters had to file all their papers with the probate court. And it took months for them to do it. They didn't want to spend the money on attorneys. They didn't want to spend the money for people to help them. So they lost thousands of dollars in the process. And then when it came down to it, they were also in a position that they couldn't continue paying the mortgage payment along the way. So when it came time, when they finally got their papers to sell the property, we got it sold about a week before the foreclosure auction. Ooh. And lost thousands of dollars, probably like $50,000 to $75,000, because we had to just put it on the market at a price that would sell right away, because it was that or foreclosure.
So probate is a process by which you have to go through your state government,
yeah,
for them to determine who gets the property. Am I right?
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's the big part of it is they're determining who has the legal rights to now be in charge of the estate too,
or the disposition of the property. Okay, so it's not just
so she had to
who gets to make the
petition
decisions.
and show that she was. There's a very set list that they will go down, to parents and siblings and those types of things. So she was next in line, but even though she was next in line, they had to go through this whole process through the court. She couldn't just step in and just say, okay, I'm going to sell it. If your parents just pass away, even if you are their only child, you can't just go tomorrow and put their property up for sale. You have to go.
Yeah, because it's not your property. You don't have,
even though it would be yours and you're next
yeah.
in line, you're the next in succession. You still have to go through this process, and that's what can make it frustrating too.
Yeah, no, that's very frustrating. So what Amber is referring to with this woman who passed away, she did not have a trust in place, or even if she did, it wasn't properly funded.
She did,
so
for her specifically, she did not have a trust in place. So
okay, so in the eyes of the state of California, she died. The technical term is intestate, meaning she died without a will or a trust. So therefore, her assets had to go through the probate process. And in California, and every state has different rules, but in California, there is a very low threshold that you have to get over in order to go through the probate process.
Yeah, it's currently for a property. For a property in California, it's $184,500.
Yeah, I don't know if there are any properties in California that are less than
No,
180.
at
There
least not
might
any
be
that I've come across. So
there
yeah,
might be a driveway or a shed that's worth $184,000, but the
maybe.
house it's attached to is probably going to take you over that limit. We had a similar story, and I may have shared this on the podcast before, but it's worth repeating. And Amber, you were very instrumental in helping us get through this process. But my grandfather-in-law, so my wife's mother's father, um, his wife passed away first in 2011, the year that we were getting married. And before she had passed away, I'd had a conversation with him about doing some estate planning, gave him the paperwork and everything. And he had started to work his way through it and didn't get it done. And his wife, or my um, uh, grandmother-in-law, passed away unexpectedly. And I remember visiting with him again and saying, okay, well, we don't need her side of the paperwork anymore. We just need yours. And he got stuck in the process. And unfortunately, he died unexpectedly. And all he had was his property, some money in the bank, and some cars. But at the time, I think the threshold was maybe $116,000 because the number changes every year with inflation. But it all added up to more than $116,000. And unfortunately, we were in probate with that property for 6 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, probate didn't settle. We didn't settle probate until I think 2020, and we had to have spent. My wife can fact check me on this because she was the one writing the checks, but I want to say we spent somewhere to the tune of $20,000.
Yeah.
And lots of back and forth to the court. And we're living in Texas, and the property's in California, and it's my mother-in-law and her brother, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. And then we had squatters in the house, and it just turned into a mess. And unfortunately, because of the cost of maintaining the home, there was a pool in the backyard that wasn't being cared for, and there was a leak or something, so the water bill was sky high. There was just so many things that were going to taxes every single year. It sold under fire sale, quite literally. I mean, I wish we'd actually kind of put it on the market, but my mother-in-law just was so overwhelmed by the process and so over it. There was someone that lived in the neighborhood that made her an offer, and she took it. And I believe the offer she took was well below market value.
It was. Yes, it was.
Amber knows. She looked it up. She was like, "You did what?" I was like, "Look, it wasn't."
I was like, we would have bought it for more.
I tried, but that was the thing. It was such an emotional process where if he had taken the time to actually get everything into the trust, maybe things would have been a little bit different. Well, I can tell you this: we wouldn't have spent all that money on the probate courts.
Correct. Yeah.
And
At the money and the time, it's very emotionally draining.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, very draining, very draining. So, and now I know we have listeners all over the world. So it may be a little different in your country or for our listeners that are in the United States. Every state has its own set of rules. However, most states are the same where they allow you to put your property into a trust so that you can avoid that probate process. Okay. And that's really what we want to make sure clients understand that they can do. And not only for you individually, if you own a home, but a lot of us, our parents and grandparents own property because, they got it at a lot better price than we can get it at. And there's a lot of built up wealth in those properties. And what you don't want to do is to have to, like I said, have that property sit through the probate process and pay all the money to the attorneys. You can spend a lot less money up front.
Yeah.
If you just get prepared.
Yes. And it's a big difference. I mean, we talk about there's a client that we're both helping as well. And they're the complete opposite difference where they had a trust that was set up. And it was set up really well. There was a lot of things added in it, personal stuff too, that helped with the siblings as they've been settling stuff. So even as emotional as it's been, to see the difference of what a family, when we see the differences of what a family has to deal with when it's in trust versus not. It also saves, I'm sure you've seen this, throughout your whole career, is also siblings arguing over things, and it helps save a lot of that too. When all these things are very clearly written out, not just on the real estate side, but when they're written out, it helps a lot of argument when you have emotions flowing and all this other stuff going on and anxiety and stress trying to figure out what's happening. When it's just clearly written out in there, it saves a lot of that. So and I know we were talking about this a little bit before, is to also encourage everyone that sometimes there's your parents might have, we see this a lot in California, where a family has owned a home for a long time. But they are maybe still living month to month. They've paid off their home, but they're not in a position to spend the money to hire an estate attorney or an advisor. And I always try and encourage the kids to say, hey, if you are, spend the money to help your parents set up a trust, because ultimately it's going to benefit you.
It's your problem.
When it's passed
It's your
along to
problem.
you. So
It's your problem. It is
yeah,
your
yeah,
problem. It is not your parents' problem. It becomes your problem. So either you spend the money now and the time and the energy, or you spend a lot more money and a lot more
yeah,
time and energy later. And we know, everyone, it can be very difficult to talk to your parents about their own demise. And sometimes they'll, I've seen it. I dealt with my parents who were like, oh, are you trying to kill me off so you can get my money? It's like, no. I'm just trying to make sure that the state doesn't take your money, that I'm not giving an attorney a whole lot of money. I don't care. You can give this whole thing to charity for I care, but let's put it in writing now
right.
instead of us trying to do it after the fact. And especially if you're in a situation where there's a blended family and you're one of multiple children, it's very helpful if you can get your parents to do this. And there's a lot of great resources out there that don't require you to spend thousands of dollars with an attorney. And I actually work with some of those organizations. Shout out to Encore Estate Planning. I just started researching and doing some due diligence on a company called wealth.com. And there's also trustandwill.com. And these are organizations that were created to bring estate planning at a lower cost for people that qualify. And to qualify for those DIY services, the do-it-yourself services, you could get this through the help of an advisor or CPA. And by the way, Amber's not an attorney. I'm not an attorney. So if you're hearing us speak about some things and you think that your situation may be a little unique, then go talk to an attorney. Okay. Or reach out to us. We can refer you to an attorney that will at least give you a few minutes of their time to give you some direction on what you may need to do. But these organizations will provide estate planning specifically for clients that if you're single and you have less than $10 million of assets. Okay. Raise your hand if you have less than $10 million of assets. Are you raising your hand? Don't raise your hand. But if you did, that's kind of funny. Now you have to laugh at yourself. But for those of you that have less than $10 million of assets, if you're single, or 20 million in assets if you're married, you may qualify for this drastically reduced service. If you are not planning to disinherit a child, you may qualify for a low-cost service. If you don't own multiple properties in multiple states, because that can tend to complicate things a bit, you may qualify for this lower-cost service. And when I say lower-cost service, I mean, I know some clients that have got their will and trust done and their properties put inside their trust, and they spent less than $1,500. Okay. Whereas when you go to an attorney, actually, we went to an attorney. Shout out to our attorney. I appreciate you. You did what we needed to do. I didn't know I could get it done for cheaper. But we paid her like $5,000. Okay. To do what we could have done for $1,500 maybe. Okay. But now, again, no shame to her. That's how she makes a living. That's her process. That's how she got it done. But there are better options out there now, especially for those that are, like I said, that fit within that certain criteria. And my firm, we will always make sure that you fit that criteria before we move forward. Okay. Because the last thing we want to do is give you something that you cannot use. But if you're looking for that sort of help, by all means, our links are in the bio. Reach out. We'd love to have the conversation with you so that you can become properly prepared, because the truth is, you guys, we just don't know. We don't know when our time will be, but we want to make sure that you are prepared when you are. I told y'all we're going to talk about death. Everybody okay? Take a deep breath.
I'm good here.
We'll be all right. So, Amber, you mentioned you gave two scenarios. You gave a scenario where someone was not prepared, and you gave a scenario where someone was prepared. I'm curious, when you're talking to someone about, purchasing a home.
Mhm.
How often are those individuals that are purchasing a home? How often do they already have a trust set up?
Out here, I mean, just because of the cost of real estate, pretty frequently. But I'd say if there are clients who this isn't their first purchase,
Mm,
I'd say I see it more than I don't typically see it in first time home buyers. So,
right.
that's really a good place for, especially if you're a first time home buyer, to start thinking about that, because you're at that point, you probably don't have enough assets if you're purchasing your first home that you've really had to think about a trust. And I think that's the thing is a lot of people think, they think about their 401k or any of their investments that they have, and not really thinking about the fact that their property now they've just drastically increased the value of their estate because of the property that they purchased. So I do see it
You bring up a
occasionally,
good
but a lot
point.
of that, yeah, goes through escrow. So
Yeah, so you brought up a good point. A lot of times people don't think about their property because they're like, "Oh, well, I don't own it. I owe the bank $800,000. All I have is, $100,000 of value in the property or less." It doesn't matter.
yeah.
The state doesn't care about who you owe. They're like, "No, what is the value?" They don't say what is the value after you pay off the bank. They say, "What is the value of your stuff?"
Yeah.
Period. Okay. So for that reason, if you're a first time home buyer, or you're planned to be a first time home buyer, maybe you want to put an estate plan in place first, because the estate plan is more than just a trust. It's also a will. It's also power of attorney for financial affairs, medical power of attorney, and HIPAA authorizations. So it does more things than just give you a trust for your major assets. Also, custodial agreements can be a part of it. Especially to all my friends and family out there that are single parents. Especially if you're single parent and the other parent isn't present, if something happens to you, who takes care of your children? Yeah, I know you want to think that, your mom or grandma or sister, oh yeah, they'll just whoever fill in the blank. You got to have that in writing, because if you don't, the county that you reside in will make those decisions for you, or the state rather, but you'll go to court in that county. They will make those decisions for you. So having those things in writing can be extremely helpful. So I'm going to shift gears here just a little bit, because I have a realtor here. So I just want to, just ask some general questions about the real estate industry. So a lot of people have been asking, are real estate prices are they going to go down? So I'm just curious, Amber, are real estate prices going to go down?
Well, I do know. I mean, let me check my crystal ball, right? But
Okay. Yeah, check your 8 ball, shake it up real
yeah,
good.
the $1 million question, right? I mean, I'd say we've been predicting it going down for a long time, but I mean, I can tell you at least for out here, and for those who don't know, I'm in the South Bay, so we're on the beach, beachfront property, kind of just south of Los Angeles, so close to Los Angeles Airport. So we are affected by it, but I think because we have the beachfront property, maybe not quite as much as some other areas. Where it's an area that there is a lot of money, a lot of wealth, generational wealth that's been passed down. I know my parents who live out of state always ask, how do people afford properties out there? We do have a lot of generational wealth, a lot of properties that have gone down from grandparents to parents and to their kids. So that's how a lot of wealth has been built out here. We've seen, the market's been very interesting the last, I'd say, 12 months. Very, I'd say, volatile, but not massive dips or anything. But we've been seeing, just as over last, so 2020, spring of 2020, as rates started to go up, we started to see a bit of a slowdown. And then same through the winter. But I think what happened come the spring is people realized, those people who are holding off thinking I'm going to wait till rates dip again, and they realize they're here to stay. We've seen a pick back up. I mean, we have properties. I had a buyer that we just closed on a property that we went $150,000 over list, and there was 11 offers.
So what you're telling me is they're not building any more land in California.
Yeah, no, we're not.
So if
So
land is scarce, but we have more and more people that want to graduate into buying homes, yeah, it's going to be hard for those prices to go down. I mean, those of us that want to buy more property, yeah, we'd love to get it at a better price. We'd love for interest rates to go down. But like Amber said, we don't have a crystal ball. So it's hard to accurately predict. We can all make our assumptions, but it's very hard to predict where we think things are going.
yeah.
Um,
And I think
so,
too, we as in buyers and sellers, got to over the last like 2-3 years with the right after the pandemic, so end of 2020 through 2021, where it was just kind of a little bit of madness in the market, but it's because
mhm.
rates were so low. And I think that's the problem is we were looking at a time that was historical lows for rates. So people just were kind of set on thinking, I'll wait till it gets back down there. But if you look at historical charts, that's the lowest they've ever been. So
Ever.
we have to take a realistic look at what rates have been, for making our decisions. But ultimately, you're buying it for the long run. Now it's different. It's a little different right now if you're looking to flip a property. My husband and I sometimes flip properties, so we're looking at it a little bit differently because that's short term. But for a long term investment, which a home should be, you might have to ride out a little dip, but as long as you're prepared to do that, you're going to wind up getting your money back in equity. So,
Yeah, I encourage clients, don't buy it unless you plan to be there at least 5 years.
correct,
And don't be surprised if in 5 years it's worth the same amount as what you paid for it.
correct.
That could happen. Anybody that bought in 2008, 9, you were waiting like 7, 8 years
Yeah.
in some areas of the country for your property to get back to the same price it was prior to the recession. So that happens. Like Amber said, it needs to be a long term
Yeah.
investment.
And that's also, I will say, one of my favorite type of people to work with are those that have a financial advisor that they have a good relationship with. So just
Amen.
because for me, because I have that background of working as a financial advisor and working in banking, so it makes me feel more comfortable. Like I hate seeing clients get into something that might cause them that we don't want people to be mortgage poor. So I know I love working with clients when they have financial advisors because I know that they are set up better for success, because owning a property can be great, but it can be a great stress if you're not prepared properly. So that's why I like that, because I know with their financial advisor, they're also kind of looking at worst case scenario. How long do we have if we can't, we've lost our job, those types of questions. So
Yeah, because let's just face it. And I know some very friendly lenders out there. Shout out to the lenders that we love.
yeah.
But the truth is, the banks do not have your best interest in mind. Banks only make money when, I won't say only, the primary way they make money is by lending it to you. They have their parameters. If you can fit inside those parameters, you can have the loan. I have clients right now where I go back to the lender, like, do not give my client that much money. And she's like, well, I said, I'm sorry, I'm not talking about you. I am talking about you, but I qualify.
Yes.
Yeah, you qualify, but you know your cash flow as well as I do. Okay. You qualify because all the overtime you had last month or the month before that, or that bonus that you got, but bonuses aren't guaranteed. Overtime isn't guaranteed, but yes, the bank is willing to give you X thousands of dollars. But we have to think about, well, what if times get a little bit leaner and you don't have the overtime, you don't have the bonuses, you don't want to be house poor or mortgage poor, as Amber was saying. So yeah, for those of you that are in the market looking to buy a home, sit down with a financial advisor as well. Find you a fee-based financial advisor that will help you work the numbers and determine if what you're doing, how much risk you're taking on by whatever decision that you're making. So I want to make sure we can get to our favorite part of the show, which
Okay.
is asking Amber some questions about her relationship with money. But Amber also said that she had a few questions for us.
I do.
So
Before we change topic.
yeah, before we change
Um,
topics, let's get those
Yes.
questions out.
So I know, like we talked about, it can be very overwhelming when you're going through probate, or even when you are a successor trustee and taking over. And I know that you offer some services to help these clients. So could you share a little bit about the service that you offer when you have a client that's helping to sell and manage a family's trust?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the primary service is financial planning. I am a fee-based financial planner, so what I do with clients is help them look at the big picture. So we take all of the aspects of their finances into account. Look at what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish, look at all of the costs that they have associated with those goals so that they can make better, more informed decisions. One of the things that's really important about the process is I want to make sure that I understand my clients' values, their goals, and their financial behaviors, and just show all of that to them in one place and say, here's what you value, here's what your goals are, here's the actions that you've been taking thus far. Now, what if we change those financial behaviors? How will they change the goals that you're trying to accomplish? Doing stress test scenarios, especially Amber and I were working with a client together and trying to determine, okay, how will we divide everything up? What's the best path to get what you want from this property that you are now inheriting, now that you are the trustee, because you had a trust set up, or now that the state has now given you that power to be able to make decisions. What are some of the pros and cons of decisions you're going to make? Should you live in the house? Should you sell the house? Should you rent the house? So I'm here to help. My firm, that is here to help you think through all those scenarios. And then another one, we just went through this with another client, and this was we're so glad it worked out. Parent passed away unexpectedly, inherited the property, and the kids wanted to stay in the property, but didn't quite qualify for the mortgage. So thankfully, everything was in the trust, so they had the ownership right away. And we just said, hey, just keep making those mortgage payments while you can. The ones that anything that's existing, or excuse me, it's the real estate taxes. Keep making the tax payments while you can. Meanwhile, let's improve your credit so you can qualify for a mortgage to then buy your other siblings out. And the reason why that process worked was because there was already a trust in place. So we didn't have to worry about paying for probate. All they had to do was keep the lights on and pay the property taxes.
Yep.
So, and that came from, we knew that mom may not have as much time as we wanted. So a lot of that planning came in up front. I said, okay, let's start preparing for this so you know what your options are. So that's what my firm does. I'm not the only firm out there. I mentioned on the previous show that we were fortunate enough and honored to be listed as one of the top financial advisors according to Investopedia for 2023. Go to Investopedia, look at that list. A lot of my friends in there, they're also fee-based financial planners. It doesn't have to be us. Find someone that can help you put a plan together so that you're not just, making decisions purely off emotion.
Right.
In all of our shows for our dozens and dozens of listeners out there, that we like to ask all of our guests the same question because we really want to get to learn about people's money scripts. And I hope that as we ask these questions to our guests, that one of them resonates with you and gets you to thinking about your relationship that you have with money. Because a lot of times our relationships with money are formed at a very young age. So with that, Amber, I'd like to know from you, what is your first memory of money?
I was thinking about this morning. I was trying to remember. Probably my first memory of money, we did where I lived. We had, and it sounds silly, but we had an ice cream man that came through. Frequently, I've lived in condos, so that was a good place to drive through. So just asking parents for the money at getting ice cream, like to me, so it was something I realized I could get something that I liked with it. It was probably my first memory.
Yes, we all remember the ice cream
Yeah.
man. My daughter is going through that right now. Oh my goodness, because she's usually on the top floor. We're on the bottom floor because ice cream man likes to come around on the weekends. Comes
Yeah.
around during the summer as well, weekdays, but they know that most of the kids are in summer camp, so they don't come around as
Yeah.
often. But on the weekends, she'll come run this. Do you hear that? Do you hear that?
Yeah.
No, I don't. You don't hear that? It's the ice cream man.
Yep.
There's
Well,
ice
that's
cream
me
in the
now too.
freezer.
With my little one, it's like I hear it and I'm all like, I know, and I'm like, I never have cash. Like that's my
Yeah.
panic. Like,
Oh
I
no,
don't
our ice
mind
cream
if
man
like,
has
but I
he's
don't
got the
like
cash
reaching in
app.
my pockets, So
No, our ice cream man has a cash app thing on the side of his ice cream truck.
yeah,
He figured it out. He's like, oh, no cash, no problem. You got a cell phone though, don't you? So
yeah,
follow-up question to that. As a parent,
yeah.
are you aware of either of your daughters' first introductions to money?
I mean, I think both of my daughters grew up in a very different financial situation, their household, because they are 10 years apart. So, with my older daughter, who's now 17, I was a single mom for a long time, for 9 years. So, I know that a lot of her probably initial experiences with money was me saying, we don't have the money to do that, So it was, I remember she always loved avocados. And every once in a while, because avocados are expensive, every once in a while I'd get one and that would be like a treat. I'd be like, oh, I got an avocado for you at the store. So a lot of her, I think, probably first memories are being told, oh, well, we don't have the money to do that, which I feel like has probably really benefited her. Because once she turned 16, she wanted to get a job. She didn't like being told, no, I'm not going to give you the money for that. So she works really hard. She started, babysitting, and now she has a hostess job. And she picks up extra shifts in the summer, and she knows busier days. So I think it probably worked well for her being told, no, we don't have the money for that, because it gave her drive to make her own money. So younger one, she's still pretty motivated. She tries to do chores, and she's going to help like dog sit some of our neighbors' dogs, and she was very excited about money. So she definitely has a love of money, but it's because she loves her toys. So
it's funny you mentioned that, Amber. We're in a similar boat there, because Seth is 21 and I was a single parent when he was little, and he's actually said out loud to Alicia and I of how Amira, our daughter, has a very different lifestyle than what he experienced. Actually, we were in the lounge at one of the airports, and we were all flying together, but Seth's flight was a little bit later or something, or no, he just got to the airport later, I think is what happened. And I said, don't go eat in the airport. I'm sure you're hungry. Just come to the lounge. And he's like, the what? I was like, the lounge. He had never experienced the lounge. Meanwhile, Amira's propped up in her chair. She's got her, her snacks in front of her, iPad plugged in, and he's just looking like, what? She just hangs out in lounges? I'm like, well, son, you guys, it's a different lifestyle. But what's interesting though is, and I was sharing this with Seth not too long ago. So he graduated from college, got a film degree, really wanted to go into the film industry, but now there's a writer strike and the actor strike going on. So, hasn't been as motivated to, try to find a job, so to speak, just because of everything that's going on. So I decided I would give him some time where he doesn't have to worry about bills. And in the back of my mind, I thought he'd be really motivated to just get any job and just stack as much money as he can. But actually the opposite wound up being true. Meanwhile, my daughter is super motivated to find ways to make money because she's trying to keep up with all her toys, her Target wish list, and, whatever's on Amazon. So, the other day, we have multiple levels in the house, and there's trash cans on every level. And we were just, I was tired of taking out the trash. So was my wife. So we just told her one day, it was like, hey, we'll give you $1 for every trash can you bring downstairs and empty it. And she volunteered the other day. She was like, hey, I have an idea. I can go get the trash so I can get some dollars. I'm like, sure, you can do that. But then the problem is, Amber, we don't have any cash. I'm like, my wife, you got cash? No, I don't have cash. So, but thanks to Apple, I can just send it through Apple Pay, be right on her iPad, and now she doesn't have to ask me to purchase any apps. So it is interesting, the dynamics, like you said, when there's a big gap between
and I can't, and same thing with my little one, I can't figure out. I mean, because we still, like, in terms of toys, like we don't buy her toy. We will get her toys on her birthday. Her birthday's in the summer, and then for Christmas. And so at some point she had some cash and we let her buy a toy. And I think that's what prompted it. So, I mean, even now when I told her, hey, I have a job for you, you can dog sit the neighbors, which I know is ultimately going to be like me doing a lot of the work, but I wanted her, I knew she'd want an opportunity to make money. And like the first words out of her mouth, well, how much are they paying me? So, I mean, they're both motivated and, to make the money. So I can't complain, so. But yeah, it's very different, and it's a little side topic on, parenting and money. But I know it's something that sometimes I struggle with because I wasn't able to do a lot for my older daughter when she was younger. And now we are. I mean, we just booked 2 days at Legoland, and it was $1,400. I was staying in the hotel in Park Hopper, but it's like I wouldn't have even. I
Oh,
wouldn't
you
be
haven't
able
even
to
bought any
fund it.
Legos yet. That's just the start. You haven't eaten yet. You haven't purchased any
Yeah,
Legos, and Legos aren't
yeah,
cheap. Believe me, Amira is into Legos. They are not
yeah. So
cheap.
I definitely sometimes too just having both of my kids being raised in different financial situations. Sometimes I have that little bit of a guilt too as a parent. Like
Yeah,
I wasn't be able to provide a lot of things, but I think that ultimately she's grown from that challenge. Where it's made her motivated to work hard, and she thinks about a job and being able to support herself. So I think ultimately it'll be fine. But
it
we
will be
sometimes
fine.
question those as parents.
It will be just fine. It will
Yeah.
be just fine. So, Amber, thank you so much for joining us on the Money Script podcast. Just a quick recap: student loans, they're starting. Okay. Make sure you have a plan. Sit down, look at your money, have a money date. Okay. Either by yourself, with your significant other, look at your plan, talk to the government, to the studentaid.gov, and find out if there's any programs you qualify for, and have a plan. Be prepared. Don't let this catch you off guard. Make the adjustments to your cash flow right now. For those of you that either own real estate or planning to own real estate, or even if you just don't have any real estate yet at all, think about an estate plan. Okay. You want to have a plan of what's going to happen to you if you can't make decisions for yourself, what will happen to you if you were to pass away, and what's going to happen to your stuff. Get the plan done now so you don't have to worry about it later. And again, I have service that can help you with that. There's lots of resources online. We'll put some links into the show notes in here if you want to go and visit to get any information for that. If you're in the Southern California area and you are looking for some real estate, I know a great realtor, Amber Romo's with Beach City Brokers. Like I said, I've known Amber for 17 years because she did the math. And I think she is a very helpful, very insightful individual that can help you understand, because like she said, she's worked in banking, she worked in financial planning, and now she's in real estate. So she has a better understanding of the financial ramifications of the decision that you're making. And for those of you that have parents, grandparents that are living, they own real estate. If they don't have a plan, a trust plan, guess what? The state that you live in has a plan for them. So you can either create a plan or you can use the state's plan. And if you want to go look up some of actually, if you want to have some fun, go down to your courthouse and go look at the probate court. It's posted publicly. They'll have the list on the door about everybody that died and what's going on in probate. Go sit in there and just listen to the size of some of these probates where they're just saying, does anyone want to make any claims here? Anyone? No one? Okay, well, we'll give them till next time, see if anyone shows up. Yes, that's sometimes how it happens. And these people just keep having to show up for court over and over again. It's not worth it. It's not. Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. Put a plan in place. Amber, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
They can either text phone calls. It's always on me, or 424-236-9575. I'm sure you have that in the link somewhere. But also you can follow us on Instagram. It's at Arneson Romo. That's our platform that we use the most. So it's usually real estate related. Sometimes we'll drop a little fun video. So we like to have a little fun as well.
We might be
You
the
never
fun
know.
video that gets dropped in there soon. So Amber, just for giggles, tell everyone about your latest listing.
My latest listing. I have one right now in Manhattan Beach. It is a 7,500 square foot lot, 4-bedroom, 4-bath, and listed at 2.799. So,
Which
beach
means it
living at its
probably will
finest.
go for 3. So with that, thank you again for joining us on the Money Script podcast. Hey, by the way, you might as well just set your clock, because next week, I think I have 3 interviews. I think there's 2 the week after that. There's going to be shows like until October. Usually we take a break around this time, but I said, why break? You guys are loving the content. We're loving you. Thank you for continuing to share it. We are, I think, 11,000 downloads and growing. So thank you, everyone, for telling a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and help someone make better financial decisions. I'll see y'all next time on the Money Script podcast. Take care.